Hello, beautiful people. I've actually started going live just because it's just an easier process to let me just like take myself off of here. It's just an easier process to kind of go and like post a video. I'm sorry for the darkness. I know we have to like do all the lighting and all the stuff, but right now it's like 2 in the morning and I'm like, I don't know. I just got like this inspiration for this video. So I'm just putting it out there. I know a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months at this point, like it was in January, right? It was during the whole like shutting down of like TikTok and then the reopening of TikTok that I said I was going to leave here. I was going to leave YouTube, but I don't know. I feel like I left and I was like, "Oh, TikTok is like different now." Oh, and I wanted to eat my words. And so now I'm like, "Okay, let's go back to square one." But there are some things that I felt like were like I was putting a lot of energy into these videos, and the truth is that I kind of want to put more energy into my art. And so I was like, you know what? Live is a really quick and easy way to just like upload stuff and to have a conversation on the arts, on things that like inspire me or whatever, or what I'm going through in a specific moment. And that maybe somebody's interested and might be helpful to somebody else on their journey as well. Like what's happening for me right now is a recognition of like kind of wanting to head towards calmer waters in terms of like everything that's like going on. If you know, you know. And I've thought about this thoroughly, and I've always wanted to live in both Paris and London. London primarily, but like I love Paris. I always love Paris. It's like, my heart. But right now Paris is a little bit of like in a kerfuffle, right? It's going through their own transition in their own government. And so even today I was like looking at like um you know what's going on in France, and there's like this whole situation happening over there with like um I guess like a theater maker opened a free production to migrants, and it was free to watch, and the migrants took over the space, and now like this theater, you know entrepreneur is like on the verge of like going bankrupt because they literally just like took over the space, which is sad. Like I can see it from both perspectives, from a social justice perspective, like, these are people that are like really struggling, and that creates a certain level of like I don't know, desperation. But from, like, also a theater entrepreneur's perspective, like, I can see, like, "Oh, man, that sucks." Like, you wanted to do a good thing, and then, like, all this happened because you wanted to do a good thing. And so now they're, like, attacking this guy with, like, rhetoric that's like, "Oh, these leftists," which is, like, just being a decent human being, right? Like, you're wanting to give a day, a production for free to people that wouldn't otherwise have the access to that, to theater. And it speaks to wanting to have accessibility to everyone to the arts, right? Um, which I think is so important. And it's really important, especially now, right? With everything that's going around in the world. Anyway, the point of this video was just to have a chat. I'm in the process of kind of looking at the artist visa, but I'm a little scared. And it's funny because the thing is like a couple of years ago, it's been 8 now. 8 years ago, I was a resident artist, a resident director in this theater company, and uh so we were doing, productions pretty often, and a lot of the a lot of the artists came from, like, a lot of the actors that we cast came from NYU, ADA, right, American Academy of Dramatic Arts. These were, like, recent, like, recent grads in some cases, recent MFA grads as well, BFA and MFA grads. And so, it was, like, their first, like, juncture into, like, professional theater. Um, I use that term loosely. But so, like, after the production, sometimes they would ask me, the ones that were, like, immigrant artists, they would ask me for, like, a letter of recommendation in order to get their artist visa. Excuse me. And I would always, write rave reviews, and I was always really grateful for their, involvement in the production. Some of them didn't like me. I don't know. It happens. I think it's difficult for some people when, like, it's a woman director. I've gotten a lot of that. It's very weird for me, especially, like, living in New York, especially the daughter of, like, very, like, someone who, like, was a professional. That kind of attitude is very strange to me, but, some people deal with that. Anyway, the point being, like, I would give these letters of recommendations, and now, like, finding myself on the other side, I'm just like, "Oh my god, like, what am I gonna do?" So I'm just in the baby beginning steps, and normally I wouldn't share this until everything's, like, done and, like, I'm in London, or, like, they didn't give me the visa, and, like, let's talk about it now that, like, I didn't, whatever happened, happened. So a lot of, like, what I do is, like, after the fact. I don't like sharing in the process because I don't know what can happen, right? And so I don't wanna share something that necessarily I don't know, like, the outcome. And this is, like, my attempt, at being, like, vulnerable and, like, just putting myself out there and just being like, "Come join me on this journey." Um but, it is scary. As the daughter of an immigrant, I don't know how my mom did it, right? Like, I know how she did it, but, like, logistically, she just got on a plane and arrived at the place, and she was like, "F it." Um, but now it's, like, very different. Like, they won't even let you, from what I've heard on the news, like, they won't even let you get on a plane in order to, like, if you don't have a previous visa. And so I'm having to be here and just kind of figuring out step by step what I'm gonna do. Yeah, so it's a little scary, especially with 3 cats. I still haven't gotten my passport. Like, it's all these, like, extenuating circumstances that I have to, like, get myself situated. I'm in the middle of a move. Um, because I need to get to a place, right, that's, like, more affordable than where I am right now in New York, in order to save up for, like, what I actually want, which is, to move to London. But I am looking at the, like, visa requirements right now, and, it's a lot, like, it's like, letters of recommendation, but I don't have, like, a lot of, like, the communities that I was a part of, like, a lot of that has fallen away in my life just because I've been focused on kind of bringing up Angel Falls Productions, and I've been doing this project, which has taken for forever, but, mostly my fault because I'm a perfectionist. I have to remind myself, "Stop being a perfectionist. Done is better than perfect." Um, but yeah, so it's truly this process of, like, I don't know. It's this process of, like, I mean, I think a lot of is also coming up for me as the daughter of an immigrant. Like, I'm like, I never thought I'd, like, find myself in a situation where I would, like, need to leave because things are getting a little serious. Um, and as someone who comes from, like, Venezuela, which is, like, a country under a dictatorship, and I left before, the year the dictatorship started, I left. Venezuela. And I grew up here in New York City, so it was like, I already had my, all my stuff because my mom like came in the 70s. So yeah, it's like it's been really interesting. So I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna get the letters of recommendation. They need you, and the issue is really not so much the visa application aspect of it. It's like getting accepted into the Council of Arts of England because you need to be accepted into the Council of Arts. You need to have like a somebody to verify that you are in fact a global talent, right? And so they ask for like any awards or like worldwide recognition. But even if you don't have that, they ask for like any awards that you might have received, including grants, which I have on, I have had. I've also had like, um, articles with my name on it through the public theater, like, oh, this person is in the show, and other people like online, like, reviews that I've gotten online, both here in New York. I th- yes, two in New York and the one in Florida, which is an online but also like a physical like newspaper outlet, right? And so, I'm gonna do that, and I have that, and so everything right now is kind of finding all the work I've done over the years and kind of like putting it all together, and printing it out and kind of doing that. I also want to do one extra show just so that they can see like I haven't been not doing anything in the past 2 years. I've been writing. So I definitely want to like put out that show, at least like one episode, and kind of take it from there. Um, I think it'll help me that a lot of my work is like social justice slash political slash talking about like culture, right? Like my own culture. And I have a few projects. I also have like, this channel, which I'm going to continue to expand on and kind of do a works in progress. Excuse me. In process too. I like that word. Works in process kind of series, just sort of like I'm I'm here until May. I'm here in New York City until May in my apartment, and then I have to bounce because of friends that I'm subletting from, like, want their apartment back. They're like, "Okay, we're ready to go back." I'm like, "Okay, great. I'm gonna leave now. I will find a place." So there's a lot kind of going on. So I have to move, but I have to figure out where I'm gonna go in order to like save up money. Um, so for anybody that's doing the process, that does not come from like family money or like whose parents aren't helping them. So artist, no, the skilled worker visa requires 4K. 4K in like £4,000 by the low end, right? In the low the low end of like the spectrum. Because and that includes like the amount of money that the visa costs. And that's what I'm using as like the bar for the artist visa, because there isn't really like a minimum or maximum of like what you're supposed to have for the global talent visa. And because like the global talent visa, um kind of like you have to show that you are in fact like have been a participant in culture in your country. um and apparently I thought like you had to like be super famous, but apparently you don't really, like you just have to show that you have been a participant and a provider of culture within your community, right? Like for me that's New York, right? Sorry, drinking water. That tastes like passion fruit. I love it. Yeah, so like it's a lot. Oh yeah, I have to like set up my portfolio as well. I have a portfolio online, but it's not a full portfolio. Um it certainly doesn't have like the videos online. I do, so I have to redo that. Um so yeah, so there's a lot to think about. I also would like to like do a little like small project before I leave New York. I have like a small project. I have another kind of based on adaptation of um actually it's not that was another one. The adaptation of what was it called? King Henry. Yeah, King Henry II. Yes. Um King Henry II. So there was an adaptation of that one that I did, but that one isn't because I need like more funding for that. I need more money for that in order because I need to like rent out like an office space because like it's a whole thing. So that's ah, give me one second. Um, but I would like to do one that like from a script that I found. And I thought the script was from, like, this Latina playwright, but apparently I, like, reached out to her to ask for her permission to use the work as, like, a short film because I had an idea for the script. And she's like, "I yeah, this isn't my work." And I literally was, like, so embarrassed that I, like, never responded to her. I was so embarrassed. Um And I was just like, "Where did I get this work?" And I've, like, Googled it, but I'm almost positive that it was her that she, like, wrote this for a one-minute play festival, but I can't remember, and, she's the artist, she should know her work. Um, it's so funny. Maybe I can reach out to the one-minute play festival, um, because I coulda sworn it was from her. Um, anyway, the point being that, I will be doing a short film about that, and I guess if somebody, like, hits, like, that's my content, then I'll, deal with the consequences because I've Googled it, I've looked, I've, like, ransacked all my paperwork, all my emails, like, who does this script belong to? I cannot find it. I cannot find it. Obviously, I would love to give people their props. I am gonna use it in order to do like a little short film. But it's really funny. I'm actually gonna do a like work in progress. I'm still in the aspect of like having to like prep that. So yeah, um, that's it. Yeah, it's a process. In terms of, like, getting back to kind of, like, the topic at hand of, like, London, yeah, it's a bit it's scary, it's, like, kind of stepping outside of your comfort zone. It's something I've always wanted to do. I didn't go to, like, um, you know study abroad year or semester for that matter. Because I always was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go to grad school. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna end up I'm gonna go to London one way or the other." But grad school never happened for me, and so right now I'm just like, "Okay, cool, 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 cool. I guess we're just gonna have to. This is the way we're gonna do it." Um, yeah. I think also, like, another possibility would have been to get, a grad school degree, but because especially in, like, the UK, um, grad school programs tend to, like, veer onto, like, younger artists, kids right out of their BFA or, right out of college. Um, and I already have like a body of work. I don't know how plausible that is, especially like when you're like the age of many of these professors. So I don't know. They did have like multidisciplinary, like no, it's like a theater lab MFA that I was interested in, that was in at RADA, but with all the whole mess around like the board of ed, I don't know that that's like the smartest thing to do right now. I do love that like Harvard like offered like all their students that earned under whose parents earned under 200K free stuff. But I think that's for undergrad, not for grad. So that's where we're at right now. Just like kind of getting everything together and started and kind of like viewing like, okay, what are the next steps in order to prepare for this thing that I'm going to start doing or that I'm already in process of, right? Like because I'm already like thinking about like excuse me, the I'm already thinking about like, okay, like this needs to be part of that because the Living Theater is huge in Europe. This needs to be part of that because like it's like right, like, they're huge with like classical things. And so classically obsessed would be like a huge like thing that like probably would align with like their structures of like work, the social justice work I do, in terms of like theater and social justice. um i'm like I'm like, okay, I think I have like a strong portfolio, and I do have some awards. I do have some grant awards. I do have like a few like residencies that I've been a part of. I've been invited to festivals. So there's that. Like I feel like I'm on solid ground in terms of that. Um but it will really be about the letters of recommendation where I'm like, I don't even know where I'm going to get any. Especially like when you haven't like spoken to a lot of these people in a long time. I can't just show up and be like, "Hey, could I get a letter of recommendation? I'm leaving the States. Thank you." That would be not cool. I don't like that. And the reason I've like kind of fallen away from a lot of like the circles that I was a part of is just because guys, I was kind of going through it. And so I just did my own thing. I just kind of was working on like getting Angel Falls Theater Productions kind of a little bit on its legs. I was like focused on this one project. I was focused on working, and that's kind of been my life. And I took some time away from acting, during that time in order to like kind of have this other thing that I was working on really be solid. So that's really kind of where I'm at with all of this. Follow for more. We will continue to explore these things. I'm going to start doing it's interesting. I created like this TikTok thing, a video. This content, right? Like, and I was talking specifically to um the aspect of it all being like, oh man, I lost my other train of thought. Who was it? Give me a second. My ADHD is ADHD and it's almost 3 in the morning. And so like I probably should head to sleep. But I don't remember. So we're gonna leave it at that. And if I remember again, we'll do another one of these videos and follow me for the journey. I am going to start like the process of like creating a works in progress thing, which I know I've always said that, but then like I never do the follow through. But now I'm gonna do it. Now it's done, and we're gonna do this and come along for the ride. And I love it. Let's do it. Oh yes, I remember now about the TikTok video. So on the TikTok video, I was like really considering like this whole concept of followers versus creating an audience as an artist, right? And it behooves us, especially if we, are theater makers, if we're like directors, if we're multidisciplinary artists over here, um, to have an audience, even if you're an actor, right? Like it does behoove you to have an audience, that people that are interested in the work that you're creating. So my curiosity was because like my TikTok, I talk about everything. I talk about politics. I talk about like, things that are like trending. I talk about like, art, obviously. I talk about acting. I talk about theater, film, whatever. I talk about Amelia Perez. It's not the movie, Amelia Perez. Um, but the main point was that like there's a difference between like people who are innately interested in your work, right? And those are audience members versus people that follow you because, oh, that's a cool take, or like, like, oh, I vibe with this person. And sometimes getting people from followers to audience members, or sometimes like your audience members aren't really fellow artists that are like following you because they agree with you on some level, or they want to like be like do the kind of work you do, or like whatever. Those are not necessarily, and there could be some crossover, but they're not necessarily you know part of that. And I don't know how much like just giving your opinion on things is really like relevant to anything versus like, oh, here's how I work. Oh, here's like let's talk about process. Let me show you process. And I think that that's a better way of like building audience. So I'm just going to start doing that. Not just to build an audience, but I also feel like I'm just curious about that, about how that can kind of impact things in the social media component of like building an audience. I'm not only doing it because of that. I think I'm just curious about it really. Um, but I guess we'll be on here and continuing to, yeah, do works in progress. So that's the next thing. I'm gonna take that script, and we're gonna like work through it. I'm gonna work through it with you guys if you're interested, and then you can come back and watch it whenever you're doing things. I'm just going to continue doing these lives because all the editing and all the thing and the other thing, it takes a lot of time versus just kind of going up here and just like talking about art and having a chat, which is what it should be. Just, grab your coffee, and I'm going to grab my water, and let's do it. Bye. Anyway, I was going to have a drink, but have a good night.